Well, welcome to this video about Arduino code. I'm just going to walk you through some really basic code, and hopefully they'll give you a bit better idea of how this code works. All right, so I'm not in your normal IDE at the moment. I'm in something called Arduino Create, which is the online version of the IDE. Okay, so you can use this as well if you like, but for the moment, we all just use the one we downloaded onto our laptops. Okay, here is the layout of what I want to achieve. So all I want to do is take this little LED button here and light here, using this button, turn it on and off. All right, I'm powering it with the 5-volt into the breadboard. It's heading into the resistor, into the switch, and then that switch pressed on or pressed off will input back into the Arduino and turn this light on and off back into the 2-pin. All right, now this light here is the 13 pin, and we'll see why that's important in a sec. Good, so here's the code. Now, as we know, in Arduino code, you get all this grey writing, which is just instruction. Anything that's greyed out is ignored by the board. Okay, so it's a really good way just to put information in there about what the code's doing. Now, for small code, it's not that important, but sometimes if you're writing really complex code, these sort of instructions and signposting is a really useful thing to do. And the way you do it is you just / or you use an asterisk, or you use a double /. Okay. Either way, once you do that, the Arduino will know that it's just instruction and not actually code. Good. Now, any embedded system really does work off two things: setting up what all the things are and looping it. So in other words, you tell the Arduino what's happening or what's doing what, and then you just tell it what to do. Right? But for this code, I've chosen this code specifically because it's got constant integers and variable integers. So in other words, it's using constants and variables. All right, so what you want to do is be able to tell the Arduino what will always stay the same. Okay, so the button pin, the pin number 2, where the button is hooked into the Arduino, is constant. That will always be 2. So in other words, I don't need to remember number 2. I can just remember button pin. The LED pin is also constant, and that will always be 13. Okay, whatever happens during this little project, that will never change. It's a constant. But the state of the button, in other words, if I push the button on or off, that means it will change. It's a variable. That's also an integer, 0. Okay, so button state at this stage is 0. All good. So the Arduino knows that. It knows those integers are important. Next, I need to set up the modes and tell Arduino what these pins are going to do. So you notice the word void here. Void just means forget everything else. We're starting a new section in this code. So void, new section. Then this section is called setup. All right, so what I'm doing is setting up the LED pin. And I'm saying the mode of this pin, LED pin, number 13, is as an output. In other words, it's going to put out from the board light or nothing, on or off. Next, button pin, which we know is always number 2, that will always be an input because that's a button on the breadboard that pushes and puts information back into the Arduino. So I need to tell the Arduino what these modes are and what these two things will be doing. Once it's done that, then I'm ready to go. All right, and of course, it's pretty simple code here. So what I'm going to do is going to say, look, the state of the button, whatever I push on the button, will equal the button pin. Okay, read the state of the button, and that will read the button pin. Then said check if the push button is pressed. All right, so if that button state, if this button state is high, in other words, if it's on, that means the LED pin should be on. So in other words, if the button's on, the LED's on. else just turn the LED off. So there's only two options. If the button's on, the LED's on. If anything else, which is there's only one thing else, which is the button's off, then turn the LED off. And that's it. That's all the code needs to do. Identify the constants, identify the variables, identify whether there's an output, what these modes are. It's output and input. And then if the button is on, then the LED's on. Else, turn the LED off. Okay, that's what this code is actually doing. Now, as I said, it's not that intuitive, but do it a few times and you'll start to understand it. Okay, and you'll start to get better at it, and you'll be able to eventually, if you keep working at it, you'll write your own code in Arduino. Okay, thank you.